Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Mintle. Hey, thanks for listening to the Dr. Linda Mintle Show. Faith radio podcasts are only possible because of your support. Thanks for giving and for sharing with a friend.
Doing life together, reaching out with hope, encouraging one another, each step along the road. You and I can make everything a little better, doing life together.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Linda Mintle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Linda Mintle, the relationship doctor, and I'm here along with my co-host sitting right across the studio from me, the other Dr. Mintle, my husband, Norm.
I am right here.
You
That's
are right
That's
across from
good
me
point.
here. And every weekend we're here and we're doing life together, and we're so glad you've joined us. And I guess I should say our technical producer's sitting right by us, too.
She's here, too. And I just wanted her to know I'm real thrilled that she noticed I was here. Wasn't that great?
It's kind of hard. I'm right across from you. We need to take some video or some pictures to
We
show
should do
people.
that. Let people see our
We've
setting.
got a great studio here.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
We do.
All right.
I do. So you know what? Today's special. We're going to have a treat today because we are going to talk about your newest book.
Yay.
You wrote it for our listeners. It's called Hope and Healing for Anxiety, a guide to manage stress and overcome anxiety. So how did this happen? Why did you decide to do this?
Well, it's a workbook. So it's a
Okay.
different kind of book for me. But over all the years, Norm, that I've been in clinical practice, and it's been decades, right? So I've probably worked with hundreds of people. I don't think that would be exaggerating. I don't think so over the years that have anxiety. Yet, you know what? It's the one topic I've not written about in a book. Isn't that wild? Now, I think one of the very
The
first
second
books I
book
did,
was-
had a little bit about anxiety and depression and eating disorders, but it wasn't heavy on anxiety. Right. So when I was asked by a publisher to write this workbook for people with anxiety, I just jumped at the opportunity.
Yes, that makes total sense. And on top of that, I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that anxiety is probably one of the most common psychiatric disorders in America and often unrecognized and untreated. Is that right?
Yeah.
I also read that it impacts about 40 million people in our country. That's 18% of our population every year.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, it is very common. And that was one of the reasons why there is a need for a book like this to help people work through some of these issues that they're having. But here's the good news. It's also highly treatable.
Oh.
However, only more than about a third of people actually get any kind of help with it. So there's a lot of people just moving through life
Living
feeling
with it.
highly anxious when they really don't need to. So writing a workbook that you could buy, you could begin to address your anxiety concerns was really a great way, I thought, to start giving people some hope. So I hope a lot of people get help from this book.
Right, we do. And I should say, like all of your books, it's very practical.
It is. I think especially this one because it's an actual workbook.
So you're working your way through the
it's-
ideas?
It's the first workbook I've ever done.
Okay.
So, you're actually doing a lot of exercises. You're going to be identifying the type of anxiety that you have. It's going to walk you through multiple ways to address it. Lots of factors involved when we're talking about anxiety.
And of course, you also bring in, as you always do, a spiritual perspective so that everything in the book finds some hope in Scripture, incorporates spiritual help, along with the psychological, the emotional, the physical, and the relationship help.
Yeah,
That's what makes you so unique.
Well, and it's so necessary because this is really a holistic look at anxiety and stress. And I'm not going to include anything in there that's new age or a little bit suspect on the Christian side of things, because your worldview really matters
Sure
when
it
you're
does.
talking about
That's
this
right.
and when you're working with your own mental health. So it's very important. But I bring in all the best of brain science, psychology, and of course the Bible. That makes it holistic. And we're going to tackle this problem. So anyone who wants to learn how to manage, or I would say even rid themselves of
Good,
anxiety,
good.
can work through the chapters. Lots of exercises, lots of pages, lots of tools. By the end of the workbook, you will understand why you're anxious, and you will have lots and lots of ways to stop that anxiety.
Good. It's extremely practical, and I'm a little bit worried about, she keeps saying exercises, like they're going to be weightlifting or something.
Not physical exercises,
good.
although
Okay.
physical exercise is one of the things we'll talk about in another show about lifestyle changes.
Good.
It's part of that.
So I think what I hear you say is that this is going to work for anybody who's feeling stressed or anxious.
Yeah, especially if you know someone with anxiety. I mean, the workbook will really help people take a hard look. I guess it's a lot of self-reflection, observing your own life and figuring out what's going on in your own life that you can work on and you can do something about it.
Good. So let's start at the beginning like we often do. Help us with the definition. What is anxiety?
Yeah, so anxiety is that uneasy, that lingering feeling of worry for a lot of people or some kind of apprehension, like waiting for something bad to happen. It's the tension in your chest, the racing thoughts, or the urge to avoid people or situations. And sometimes for some people it's mild and manageable, like sort of like a background hum in your day. And other times it can feel really overwhelming and all-consuming, affecting every corner of your life.
Well, that's a good point. It can be debilitating for some
Yes.
people, like we know. They can't, I understand, you've told me this before, some people can't even get on an elevator.
Right.
They're so anxious or
about
drive
that.
a car. Or just being annoyance or occasional. It's occasional, I guess. Sometimes people don't feel it all the time. Why do we have it? Where does it come from?
Well, literally comes from the brain, of course. But I'm not going to bore you with neuroscience because that would probably put most of our listeners to sleep. However, I do explain a few of the basic concepts of brain science in the workbook so that you know what is getting activated in your body and in your brain when anxiety hits.
Okay.
And so the good news is you can change your brain and then you can calm your anxiety. But lots of experiences in life also do trigger anxiety, Norm. So stress, trauma, loss, uncertainty, relationship problems, financial stress, social media, loneliness, lack of purpose.
Goodness.
I mean, have I hit something for somebody listening in the audience? Any kind of lifestyle issues, even things like certain medications or chronic illness or substances can cause anxiety as well.
Wow, that is quite a list.
It is a big
no
list.
wonder it's so prevalent in our culture. That
Right.
you've listed something for everybody here. I read that 1 in 3 people struggles with anxiety. There's even a book called The Anxious Generation. Why do you think it's so prevalent today?
Yeah, I just think people are under a lot of stress and they experience a lot of change. Change can be good. It can also be really difficult for people, but it's always stressful when you make changes.
So stress isn't bad.
No, but sometimes the way you cope with that stress is what creates anxiety.
Okay.
And then I think, we have a lot of distrust in information in our culture. We don't really know what's true, what to believe.
Right.
And that makes a lot of people anxious. We also see bad news almost all the time. I mean, if you pay attention to the 24/7 news cycle, you're going to feel not only anxious, probably somewhat depressed. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to see bad news constantly on a reel or in your face. And a lot of people feel isolated. They feel lonely. A lot of people, Norm, are overwhelmed because they just don't have a lot of support. I mean, we don't live near our families like we used to. And then I think the big one that is rarely talked about in our culture is as we've taken more and more of the Christian perspective and Christian values out of the culture, you've removed a major way to cope with anxiety and not to be anxious.
Wow, that's a great point. We don't often talk about that on our program, about the cultural relationship between Christianity for everybody.
Right.
And what it means to our society, our civilization as a whole. But you know what? It sounds depressing to me just to listen to all of this, but the Bible tells us to be anxious for nothing.
Right.
Now, that's a tall order. I don't know how God expected us to ever live up to that one, but I do know this. He's never given us a commandment, and that's a commandment, that we can't do with his help.
Yeah, right. So that means that we have to depend on God to get us through our difficult times and our stress. And that's why it's so concerning that God isn't mentioned in our culture
That's right.
as an answer to so many things. God helps us. He helps us in so many ways. He centers us. He directs us to focus on what's important. He's the correction for so much of our bad thinking and sometimes even our problems, because the Bible is a good guide for how to live in a way to flourish. But when we try to do things in our own power and we allow the cares of this world to overwhelm us, and, I'm guilty of that too, then we can easily become anxious.
So isn't anxiety really about just learning how to cope?
Well, it's a big part of it. So, we have to learn how to manage stress effectively to keep a balance in our life and to build resiliency. I think we know this, but I think it's easier said than it is done.
Sure, of course. So what happens then if stress is left unchecked in our life?
Well, when it's chronic and it's unchecked, as you said, it affects your body, your mind, your spirit. It weakens your immune system. It makes you more vulnerable to illness. It disrupts digestion. It increases your heart rate. It raises your blood pressure. It does a lot of negative things, right? So over time, it can even affect your memory, your mood, your reproductive health.
Wow.
So the cumulative effects of chronic stress really pave the way for deeper issues, including anxiety. And spiritually, you can feel defeated.
Wow. Okay. So let's get to your book. You begin the book talking about how to manage stress. It's the very first chapter.
Yeah, and that's because stress and anxiety, as we're talking about, are really closely linked. They both activate that fight or flight system in our body, that survival mechanism that we all have that helps us respond to things that we perceive as threats, right? When this response is triggered, our body releases stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and these hormones increase your heart rate, speed up your breathing, heighten your senses. They're preparing you for action, right?
That makes sense.
But when this response is helpful, it's great. It comes in short bursts. It, responds to something that might be real or perceived danger. But, Norm, when it's activated too frequently, or it doesn't shut off, or it's activated in times when there really isn't any threat, then it's going to leave your body in a constant state of tension. And over time, this can contribute to anxiety, leaving you feeling sort of stuck in a cycle of worry and stress.
Wow. Sounds depressing.
Well, it's not, because we're going to get through that. We're
That's
going to
right.
make sure that we're not getting stuck in that cycle.
Well, let's talk more about stress then, since that seems to be a starting point. Walk us through some of the important points from your first chapter.
Well, you have to, first of all, identify the type of stress that you have in your life. I mean, just not thinking about it is not a good strategy because it's impacting you. So you can break your list into maybe short-term stress and then long-term stress. And then think about how that may be affecting your body, like I just talked about.
Okay.
How's it affecting your thoughts? How does it affect your relationships, your emotions, and your spiritual life?
Okay. So we have two types. Now what?
Then it helps to keep what I call a stress diary. So when you feel stressed, look at the time of day, look at what happened, and how did you react to it.
Oh, smart.
Did your reaction calm you down, or did you become more anxious?
Sounds like an emotional thermometer. Can you explain that a
Yeah,
little bit?
I actually use that as a sort of a little way to think about how you want to deal with stress. So imagine your emotional state as a thermometer with 3 zones.
Okay.
So we have the green zone, which is calm and in control and balanced. We have the yellow zone, which is where the signs of stress are starting to appear. You might have some tension and some mild worry. And then the red zone, where you feel overwhelmed or anxious. And so pause through your day and say, okay, what zone am I in right now?
Good idea. Yeah.
If you're in the yellow or red zones, you're going to need to engage in some calming action to get rid of those anxious feelings.
Oh, how do we do that? Give us an example.
Easy things like just stop and take a slow, deep breath. That will actually calm your body. Or you can step away from this situation for a short break. We call that an adult timeout. And you can regain your composure using the deep breaths, or you can pray as you breathe as well. And then for some people, writing down their thoughts is really helpful because sometimes they can write them down and then you can release those thoughts to God in prayer. And then we mentioned just a little bit ago, get some physical exercise with a walk or some kind of light stretching. That will take your body out of anxiety really quickly.
Okay, for me, it sounds like we need to pay attention to the stress in our body and our mind. Well, I'm going to pay attention to the need for a break here in a second, and we're going to be right back. More on Linda's new book, Hope and Healing for Anxiety.
Anxiety is something I dealt with for years. Got to the point where I did not want to leave my house. I knew that was not the best life. And all I can say is God delivered me. It's been over 20 years since I've had an anxiety attack.
When I'm feeling anxious, this is what I do. I pray and I go for a walk.
Anxiety for me always starts in my head and shoulders, and I start to get like this little headache. So I just start to begin to relax and and praise. Worship should be a lifestyle. And so just give it to the Lord. Say, hey, God, this is yours. Deal with it.
When I feel anxiety coming on, I like to listen to music, especially worship music.
Anxiety does not have to control your life. Find peace, strength, and hope with Dr. Linda Mintel's new book, Hope and Healing for Anxiety. It's available wherever you buy your books.
Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Mintel of the Dr. Linda Mintel Show.
And I'm Dr. James Cribbs, and we co-authored a book, Living Beyond Pain.
If you're one of the 100 million people suffering from chronic pain, this is a book for you. Living Beyond Pain, in stores now.
Welcome back to the Dr. Linda Mintel Show. Quick reminder that you can follow Dr. Linda on her social media platforms, X and Instagram. The address is at Dr. Linda Mintel, Dr. Linda Mintel, all one word, and on Facebook at Dr. Linda Mintel, author and speaker. Social media is a great way to keep up with her speaking and her writing, and you can also find out about her new book on anxiety right there on her website. Just click the link and it's yours. Or go anywhere you buy books online and you can get your copy. So we're talking about that today. Your new workbook, Linda, Hope and Healing for Anxiety. Just as an aside, I've never seen you write a book this quickly.
I know. Well, it was a workbook.
It's your 21st, so I'm speaking from experience here.
So it wasn't as long as the other books that I've written,
Okay.
right? And it includes help that I've been giving people for years. So it wasn't like I had to go do a lot of research and, I had to look things up and the things that take you a long time
Sure.
to do. But I'm just pulling it all together on what I know that works and getting it on my computer. So it wasn't something that was really taxing for me. I actually enjoyed writing that. Because it was such a familiar subject and something I'd worked with people on for so many years.
Right. Well, it came easily and readily to you.
It did.
That was
It
nice. Did. Yeah. Okay, we've been talking about stress and we've talked about anxiety. What's the relationship between those two?
Yeah, they're interconnected parts of our life, right? But they're a little bit different. So stress, Norm, when it's well managed, can really motivate us to perform at our best. So a little bit of stress is great because it helps you get moving, get going, motivates you.
It's kind of the kick you need sometimes.
Yeah, but when it's left unchecked, it can then evolve into anxiety, and it leaves you feeling overwhelmed, out of control. So if you understand the distinction between stress and anxiety, that's actually the very first chapter in the book, and you get to understand their signs, what's different, why one is just stress, and when does it actually move into anxiety, then you can apply some practical strategies to manage stress. And then you can look at some other things that you can do as we go through the workbook to manage anxiety or to actually rid yourself of anxiety.
But that's what you do in this workbook, right?
Right.
You help people,
Working
you
through.
tell them stuff, and then you give them exercises.
Yes.
Okay.
And helping people control their emotions, so they don't spiral into something bigger. And that's why in so many people's lives, managing stress is so important because when you look at it, it's often the underlying cause of anxiety.
So stress management sounds to me like a skill that I can develop. That's got to be good news.
Yeah, but sometimes it takes some self-awareness and some intentional practice and a lot of reliance, I think, on prayer. Christian mindfulness can be really helpful with stress. And supportive habits that I present in the workbook. You can foster resilience in your life and maintain balance even in the face of life's challenges.
I'm glad you said that because this is where that Christian perspective that is so important in all of your books comes shining through. We're not doing this by ourselves. We're not alone.
No. Do you ever wonder, you and I have talked about this, so I know you have, how people live their lives without God in it? When they face so many difficult things?
It seems impossible in today's world.
Yeah, I just mean, as Christians, we know that God is with us every anxious moment. We know that He's offering His steady presence, His unfailing love. You and I recently had a friend who was diagnosed with glioblastoma. It's a brain tumor, basically.
Yes.
Very difficult thing to be diagnosed with. And most people who would get that diagnosis would be anxious and depressed, maybe in despair. But Norm, we are watching her walk out the most incredible witness to all of us because she is at peace with the Lord.
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing to listen to her and watch her.
So many times we have said in difficult circumstances like this, what possible good can God bring from that? But I think you've just identified it. If nothing else, her testimony of reliance, trust, and peace in God is screaming to the rest of us that this is possible. It's just absolutely amazing to me.
Yeah, it really is. And I think we have to be careful to not say that our people's anxiety doesn't mean somehow they don't have faith.
Oh, no. Right.
I mean, sometimes we do that. We pathologize sort of our faith
right.
in the middle of if we have any kind of problems.
You and I have heard that in our past. Well, you just don't have enough faith.
Right. And that's not always what's going on here. It simply means we're human. We're in need of God's grace. And we know that God meets us where we are, and he gently leads us towards that peace that our friend has so miraculously found. Our friend told us that God was preparing her for bad news a month before she had symptoms in the diagnosis.
Wasn't that amazing? What a testimony.
I mean, she had no idea. She just knew that the Lord was doing this work in her, and he just was meeting with her daily. And she said, when I got the diagnosis, I knew I was prepared for it. Wow.
Yes. Well, it was so fascinating when we were with her, and she said she'd go walking every day, and she climbs up a hill and does her exercise. And she said for 30 days, God was filling her with peace and talking to her specifically.
That's incredible.
And I think that's why it's so important for us to spend time with God, right? Especially when we're starting to feel some anxiety.
Yeah, it's critical because we need to begin to quiet the noise that's in our heads and make space for the healing rest that our souls are longing for, right?
Sounds poetic, but so true.
Yeah. I mean, because stress and anxiety are still going to come. But we don't have to face it in our own strength. So with God beside us, our refuge, our strength, our ever-present help in times of trouble, as we quote the scriptures, we can walk forward in hope. We're anchored in the promise that his peace will guard our hearts every step of the way.
Right. So as you close that first chapter, you give scriptural references to meditate on. Let's talk about a few of those.
I mean, these are always so good. All of these scriptures are ones that we put to memory because they're just so good in any aspect of our lives, right?
And by the way, we have lived them.
Lived them, yeah.
You're not writing a theory book here. You're writing
Right.
a real life, real experience book.
Yeah. I mean, I've experienced loss, and you have too. And we've had lots of problems that have happened in our families, and we've gone through infertility. We've gone through a lot in life, and these scriptures work.
Right.
So the first one that I love is from Isaiah 26:3, and it's, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you."
There it is, isn't it? You and I often reduce all of the Christian walk to that word trust.
Trust. And this is what we're seeing with our friend.
Right.
She is keeping her mind on Christ, and he is giving her peace. I mean, you just can't do that in the natural. What a gift that we have to cope with bad news and life difficulties because we have God in our lives.
Which takes me back to what you said at the beginning of the program. How do people without God survive in our world? I love the one from 2 Samuel. "In my distress, I called to the Lord. I called out to my God. From his temple, he heard my voice. My cry came to his ears." We're assured that he hears us. When we go through difficult things, we certainly know that we can cry out to God. We have permission to do that. But it's equally important for us to understand that he hears us, that he promises to help. We've seen this over and over in our life.
And Norm, as we close out the show, another way to think of this as we're talking about these scriptures is that we're casting our cares on him. It's not that we're ignoring our cares. We're not feeling them because we're feeling distress over them when they happen, but we're casting them on him. So turn to God in your distress. It says this in Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, "But in their distress, they turned to the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him, and he was found by them." And so there is the hope. They cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distress. So the Lord will bring you out of your distress, but you must do your part to manage that stress and then include him in your actions that you're going to learn to take to overcome anxiety.
Good Dr. Linda prescriptions today. Thank you.
That's all the time we have today. Many thanks to my co-host, Norm Mintle, who makes the show a conversation, to our technical producer, Wan Jing Pu, and our editor, Katie Sims Wilson. Hey, from all of us here at Faith Radio, we'll talk to you again next weekend. In the meantime, remember, we're doing life together, and it's better when you don't have to do it alone.
Doing life together.
Hey, thanks for listening to this conversation from the Dr. Linda Mintle Show. These conversations are available because of your support. Become a supporter now at myfaithradio.com. Please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes, and share it with friends so we can live life to the fullest, walk confidently, and find healing and hope.